Hello, everyone. Happy New Year to you all. I hope you have had a wonderful holiday season, and I wish you all the best of luck in 2024. My name is Gary Gomes. I'm here to talk with you about Vedic astrology for the next week and also into the next year. I will do subsequent uh, videos on at various key points in the year, one around January 15th, one around April 15th, because these are also two really important points in the calendar for Indian astrology. But I'm going to cover the calendar year for 2024 because that's really how we mark the changing of the years. I know it's not every religion marks that change, but essentially, if we're talking about the dominant system or the dominant uh, way of marking time on the planet, that is the most popularly used. 2024 is pretty much the current dominant system. So that's not meant as any aspersion to any other other group. It's just that, excuse me, I'm trying to get my collar fixed, and I can't seem to find the right side to acid and mirror images are really a pain to work with. Okay, so 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 let's see now. Okay, so if you want to study with me, again, my prices will be going up a bit in 2024. I'm not going to make them unaffordable, but I have been kind of on the low side as Vedic astrologers go in terms of charges. And so I'll be increasing my fees for lessons, and I'll be increasing my my fees for readings, but they'll still be reasonable. I don't want to, I'm aware that people contact me when they're either in. A lot of people will contact me when they're in tough financial shape, and we can tailor the reading so that you can afford it, and I can still give good advice. Okay, so the best way to contact me is to use my cell number, which is 508-525-0001. Again, that's 508-525-0001. You can also email me at garygomesg@gmail.com. And while I'm still advertising, let me say I will have Jean Karazian on January 2nd. I'm still investigating when I want to do my first live stream. It won't be with John. I will have Lolita Donatella back again if she'll agree to be on the show. I will have other astrologers that I've been in contact with on this particular broadcast, and that's been months in the making, and it's been all my fault. It hasn't been their fault. It's been all my fault, and I readily own up to that. So it's just been a really busy year, and I've had a lot of distractions and uh, external obligations that unfortunately have delayed things more than I'd like them to be delayed. Jupiter's going direct. We're right in the middle of that transition right now. Mercury is going to turn direct on between Monday and Tuesday. So a lot of communications will be much better than they have been, and a lot of lessons will be much better than they have been. I find it interesting that Jupiter's um, that we're seeing movement in a lot of the election contact contested election slates um, regarding former President Trump and even some of the election strategies being used by the Democratic Party uh, have come into full focus over the past week or so, past 2 weeks, as Jupiter goes direct. So we can actually now see some of the strategies that were not really hidden, but were delayed um, or or put on the back burner, or people were working on them in the background right now. So I'm going to do a slight global overview for you for next year. And I'll look at a couple of key nations. Then I'll get to the charts for individual signs, and then I'll do a wrap up in what I expect to be uh, important parts to look at around the world. Okay? All right. With me so far? Great. Okay. That's what I like about you. You're so smart. All right. So let's see now. Let me go to the share screen option. This will take a second. So let's go to January 1st. I'm going to use Greenwich, London as the time area. See now. So I'll be right there. And this is just for convenience sake. It doesn't mean that I think the world rotates around the UK. It's just for convenience sake. Um, it's considered the zero meridian right now. Uh, According to friends of mine like Ernst Wilhelm, you Eugene in India would have been an earlier. I believe it was Eugene. I could be wrong about this. Eugene, India would have been considered the locational point um, earlier on. But like I said, since we're living right now, this is what we'll use. So we have K2 in the first house. Um, that's going to make this year a fairly disruptive year. Let's see now. One, two, three, four. So we're looking at important houses. Venus and Mercury are still aspected by Saturn, so there'll be this feeling of injustice which permeates a great deal of the world. Um, there are these things called sign aspects, and Jupiter is aspecting Venus and Mercury through sign aspects. So that's actually somewhat more favorable. And Moon is aspecting, and Jupiter is being aspected by the Moon, and the Moon is also aspecting Jupiter by what I call Rashi or sign aspects. So that's good. That tends to indicate there is some fundamental flow of education, some fundamental flow of knowledge coming through this year. So that's good. But I think if we look at the basic interpretational principles of the chart, so essentially what I just threw you is what's commonly called a Jiminy technique, although the technique is not exclusively limited to Jiminy astrology. And Jiminy is a subset or a branch of Indian astrology. I'll talk about it more on one of our subsequent broadcasts. I've already done some shows on that, but it's really a fascinating system. Saturn is still aspecting Jupiter, so there's this feeling of progress being delayed or denied. There'll be a lot of fighting about court matters and delays and confusion about court matters really until May from that because of that Saturn June aspect. Jupiter moves here in May. I've already discussed this several times. That to me signals a kind of an economic um, downturn or cluster and or descent. And I mean, one of the things about the moon is in a good nakshatra as the year begins. It's in Purva Falguni nakshatra, which is really great, but it's in the 12th house in the chart. So that does indicate maybe declining wealth. Saturn is directly aspecting the moon. That's also not good for alliances or for people working together. Uh, so, and I was talking with somebody last night about the Jupiter Rahu conjunction that happened last year, and some astrologers were expecting a kind of a boom time with that. And some people did get that, but it's an illusory boom. I mean, I think that's one of the things to keep in mind about Rahu. Rahu deals very strongly in delusional expectations. And so you can have Rahu and Jupiter there, and you can say to yourself, well, this is going to go on and on. I'm going to get as much as I want and as much as I need for as long as I like. Uh, Jupiter actually, when it's not controlled by Rahu or not influenced by Rahu, tends to be much more realistic, and it tends to view more, have more influence on trying to reestablish values, trying to reestablish traditions, trying to slow things down. And that's at least what I've noticed in my chart interpretations. It tries to um, remap expectations into more traditional patterns of belief. The United States was in a Jupiter Mahadasha when it hit the when it entered World War One, and during the boom that led up to the Great Depression. So that was essentially so. Actually, if anything, strong Jupiter favors um, expansionism. It favors um, more traditional ways of doing things. So let's say it would favor free enterprise. It would favor um, those kinds of things. Saturn actually favors control or more agrarian or less technologically advanced society. Now, Saturn's in Aquarius, which does mean it encourages some innovation, but still, if it's interacting with Jupiter, that innovation will be restrictive. So we've seen a lot of arguments about um, medicines and technology and fear of technological innovation, especially in terms of artificial intelligence, coming up over the past year and a half or so. That's been Rahu with Jupiter and aspected by Saturn because this fear that this will ruin us. Jupiter will take us away from those particular fears, but will also encourage a more, it'll encourage speculation because Jupiter actually is a planet that likes to gamble. Okay. I'm not saying that negatively. I'm saying it likes to take chances. It likes to rest in terms of what I would call natural equilibrium. And with Venus and Mercury being afflicted by Saturn, that will constrict trade. So we're already seeing cutbacks in trade because of the pirate activity in the Middle East. And we're also seeing Ketu in the first house. So there was recently a call from, so there was recently um, an attack on Iran in retaliation for a drone strike on Americans. Now, and Netanyahu also wants America to, for at least from what I've heard, Netanyahu and Israel also wants the United States to engage Iran. So this is, to me, this is dangerous. This is very, very, not that I'm afraid of Iran, that's not the idea, but I'm afraid of destabilizing a region of the world that's already incredibly destabilized. I don't have an easy answer for it, but I'm pretty sure that um, in all conflict, which could expand to different locations like Turkey and Russia uh, and even Saudi Arabia would be in anybody's best interest. I think this is really stupid behavior, but I understand why it's being proposed. It's not really, it's so I'm not trying to make a, I'm not a foreign policy expert uh, by any stretch of the imagination, but I get really worried about conflict and reaction to conflict without serious consideration. Uh, it's my belief it's always better to avoid war than to provoke it. It's just basically. And because essentially, um, over the past 60 years or so, most areas of the world have not ended up better off after a war than before a war. That's just, as a matter of fact, I can't remember anywhere that's ended up better off after a war than before a war. So I think this is something which should be approached very, very cautiously. But that case in the first house is like a powder keg in the first house, and people will be more inclined. This is passing in the United States' 10th house, so the United States will um, be looking at its options. Jupiter's aspecting the in the U.S. chart. So this Sagittarius is a rising sign and half for the United States. And some people can disagree with that. And if they wish to, that's fine. Uh, but I have that as my rising sign for the United States. It aspects, Jupiter aspects the ninth house of foreign adventures and also the first house. Saturn aspects the 12th house of loss. And Moon aspect Saturn, so that's not a combination for good judgment. K2, if we use again what are called Gemini aspects, K2 aspects the first house and aspects Mars. Okay, so we have Mars in the first house. Now, again, I'm not necessarily accusing President Biden of doing this, but it's been historically the case that the United States doesn't um, vote out of office a president if we're in the middle of wartime. Uh, the sole exception I can think about that would be when Johnson was contested for the Democratic nomination for president, but he voluntarily left. He wasn't voted out. He probably would have won re-election in 1968. That's my guess. Um, but it would have left the country in a horrible mess. Just really horrible. So I think one of the things we're going to see is we're going to see a lot of disruption politically in the United States. So, what a surprise! It's not really like big news. Uh, Court cases continuing really until and contested election seating of elections at least until May. But because of K2 being in that 10th house and because of Rahu being in the 4th house, there'll be some potential for violence this summertime. Uh, there is some potential for assassinations of leaders. I'm not necessarily saying in the United States, but just in general around the world. And I think also, at least from what I can see from the chart, uh, a lot more foreign engagement on the United States' part. So if we go to other charts just for a second, so let's skip over here. I'm going to go to Israel's chart for just a second. This is the best information I have on Israel. So Israel has that Virgo rising as well, so a lot of the same phenomenon. So you'll see attempts to unseat Netanyahu, definitely. Um, if we're looking at Israel's Mahadashas, Israel's in a Rahu Mahadasha like the United States is right now. And that'll mean it'll be under constant struggle or upheaval or domestic uh, turmoil for really the next 17, 18 years or so. And you probably will see some kind of change in governance. Um, but I'm not sure it's going to happen this year. Maybe in 2025. Okay. It could still happen this year because we still have uh, the first House Lord does indicate a change in leadership. If we go over to other countries, I have so Russia. Russia has a Scorpio Lugna. Well, what a surprise. And again, they are capable of deceit, no question about it. The United States is capable of sensationalism, so um, they'll use the media to promote or to propagandize. Um, Mars and Mercury indicates Russia lies, basically. And the Rahu Sun conjunction in the second house also indicates they do want more power. However, I think with Saturn aspecting Mars or Saturn aspecting the first house, they'll be constrained at least over the next couple of years from taking anything further. And again, as I've said many times before, I actually uh, in July of 2024, they're changing major planetary periods to Moon. They'll be much more focused on their economy than on their partnerships than on conquering. Let's see now. Let's go to Iran. Do I have Iran? I might not have it. I, oops, my spelling is bad. I have Iran. So Iran has another Scorpio rising, so they're kind of like soul, and they're kind of like soulmates to Russia, and they have Jupiter. They're in a Jupiter Mahadasha, ninth house, so they're going to be seized with a great deal of nationalism. Uh, with K2 over here, they're doing things behind the backs of people. Jupiter Venus starts in May of 2024. Um, they'll get shocked. Um, they'll seemingly come out strong, but they'll also get um, that'll set up a pattern for their defeat because Venus is comparatively, it's not weak, but Mercury's weak in the chart. And so Mercury's debilitated, so they can't really organize a good campaign. They're much better. They're much better at subterfuge than they are at all war. So I think also one of the things that's striking about this chart is the fact that their moon is isolated and only aspected by Saturn. So they'll only have one real ally, it looks like from my chart, and that ally will exact um, a lot of cost from them, a lot of expense from them. So let's see now. And I'm only going to do one more chart. I want to look at Argentina. I'll do two more charts. Argentina has a Libra rising sign. Um, is in a Saturn, so it's in an austerity period right now, and it will be until 2030. Okay, so this is in keeping with the current election of their new president, who actually has said he will cut back a lot of things. Will this bring about rebellion in Argentina? Probably not, or it'll be relatively muted or behind the scenes because Argentina's in a Saturn return. It's not really it. It I think um, that usually indicates an austerity period. And let me look at one more country, Turkey. Oh, I want to look at China, Turkey and China. Okay. Sorry, folks. We'll be off this next. Turkey's in the last phases of its Sun Mahadasha, which will end in 2026. And it just went through a really horrible sub period with a Saturn sub period. So again, Turkey's encountering phenomenal inflation rates. Um, Sun Mercury sub period should actually allow its commerce to improve a little bit. It'll have some increased financial relations with other countries. Again, sadly, some earthquake activity, most strongly towards the end of the year because of K2 being in an earth sign. And I'm thinking that overall, Istanbul, which is the main center of Turkey, will not be jarred by earthquakes, but let's say the southern regions, here we go down here, the southern, the this is this is east, north, oops, east, north, west. Let's just see, east, north. Northern regions will be subject to earthquakes, but northwest and southern regions will be more susceptible to earthquakes. Let's go to China. China's an important country, right? Extraordinarily important country, but they've been struggling. All right, so Saturn is now in its Mercury Mahadasha. There'll be more of a temptation to engage in conflicts, especially after January of 2025. It looks like not this year, not this coming year. Although K2 will be joining NATO K2, but you'll also see a shift and maybe even a potential change in government in China. You may see a more militant or more or less or more militaristic government coming out of China over the next 2 to 3 years. So this is something to be a little bit worried about, not to be scared of, but worried about. And I think, but actually, I think China is going to be in severe economic trouble over the next couple of years. And I've said that many times before. So let's go back to the chart and see how it affects you for the next few weeks. Oops. Okay, so let's go down here. 0, 1. T, and myself. And I close this down just to make sure we have the chart up. I haven't done the UK. I'll do it next week. I'll do it UK, France, uh, NATO, the NATO countries, Africa next week. It's too much to put on one show. So let's go over here again. Yeah. All right. So we have K2 in the first house. So I already explained about the general trends. K2 in the first house also means a shortage of natural resources. So I'm not expecting inflation to really cease all that much or prices to go down anytime soon. Um, in terms of the election, I'm going to give you my best guess right now. Um, after numerous court battles, um, I think Trump's going to emerge the nominee for the Republicans. Um, I think it's going to be a bitter race. I think it's going to be, and Biden will either bow out or try to start a war. I think you will see assassination attempts on both major candidates. And uh, it's this is something I'm not really crazy about saying or efforts to take them out through other means. The court system is what they're using on Trump. Uh, Trump still isn't in the clear, to my mind, as far as being able to run again, to be quite honest. But if he can clear those obstacles, if he can make it to May in terms of court cases and the item and the all the items that are hanging over his head, he'll make it. He'll make the nomination. Um, I haven't looked at Haley's chart yet. I will do so next week. I haven't looked at DeSantis' chart. Those are the two most likely replacement nominees for Trump. And the other person who's a likely replacement candidate for Biden would probably be the odds-on favorite is probably Newsom, but it could even be Harris. So we don't know just yet. But I'll explore those possibilities in future broadcasts. But like I said, that's just based upon my gut and what I've looked at in terms of the U.S. chart. But it's by no means a certain thing that either Trump or Biden will be president uh, in January 2024, 2025. Okay, so just take that prediction with a grain of salt. That's how I feel today. I may feel differently based upon what I look at for the chart of the United States over the next few weeks. So let's go to Aries. Aries has Jupiter in the first house. That's a good placement. Good for money. This is a good chart for Aries for money. Moon is in Purva Falguni Nakshatra, excellent nakshatra for financial gains. Ketu's in the sixth house. There is some jealousy level of the sign. Mercury and Venus are in the eighth house. A little bit of overspending by spouse or relationship partner or business partners. Mars is in the ninth, finally. So finally, this sign is getting some luck. Still a lot of pressure on this sign because of Saturn aspecting the first and Rahu causing a lot of expenses, but a lot better than we've seen over the past few months. Okay. For Taurus, this is May 15th to June 15th. Aries was April 15th to May 15th. For Taurus, we have Venus in the seventh house along with Mercury, so this will increase communications with partners and also increase career life for this particular sign. A lot of career pressure on relationship partners, and there should be some domestic life looks good, but children will be a little bit difficult to understand. And luck will be a little bit hard to come by. The sign will have to work for everything it gets, but basically not a bad placement. Again, too much money being spent. For Gemini, Gemini has Mercury in sixth house. So there's a lot of work this sign has to do. That work will move forward after January 2nd. Venus is in the sixth house as well, so there's more focus on female enemies or enemies, artistic enemies. And let's see now, K2's in the fourth, so some disruption at home, some emotional disruption, which will continue for about another year, to be honest. But this person will change into a very different person about a year and a half from now. Let's see now, and Moon's in the third house, a lot of ability to attract wealth. And Sun's in the seventh house, a lot of focus on relationship partners and a lot of increased argument or disagreement with the relationship partners. Saturn's in the ninth house. Slow and steady wins the race. That's really the best advice I can give this particular sign. If you want something, stick to it. Don't expect it to come quickly because it won't. Rahu's in the 10th house, so good for career recognition. Cancer has Moon in the second house, so again, good for money for this sign. Ketu's in the third, good for courage. Mercury and Venus are in the fifth house, good for past life luxury communications or past benefits coming from past efforts. Sun and Mars are in the sixth house. That gives financial increase, but also increase of enemies and possible problems with the government. Saturn's in the eighth, so this sign will have to be reconfiguring itself or reconstructing itself as the year goes on. Rahu's in the ninth, and Jupiter's in the 10th. So certainly a lot of career success for Cancer, but domestically a little bit problematic. For Leo, the Lord of the 12th is in the first house, so that means a lot, again, a lot of focus on expenses. K2's in the second house, some obstruction or disagreement about money. Mercury and Venus are in the fourth house. That's very good for financial growth. Sun and Mars in the fifth house, some benefits from governments or from males. Saturn's in the seventh house, relationships, life will stay where it is. It will seem a little bit dull or boring or predictable, but it's fine. Rahu's in the eighth house, so there'll be more need for investigation. Relationship partners won't be happy. Jupiter's in the ninth, increased luck for the sign. So overall, not a bad uh, week year for week or year for Leo. K2's in the first house of Virgo, so this sign has to watch out for viruses, illnesses of all kinds, even accidents. It's a lot easier to cut yourself or wound yourself when K2's in the first house for Virgo. Money and graciousness will go far for this sign. There'll be some more domestic issues for this sign, though. There'll have to be a lot of focus on home, and but even fights about home. Rahu's in the seventh house. That's basically good for. So there's a temptation to look for relationship partners in other areas. Don't take it because it's really not. It's not going to work out. Jupiter's in the eighth house, and there'll be hidden admirers in this chart. But again, like I said, they won't work out. Moon's in the 12th, very good. Some ability to gain wealth through foreign journeys, and that looks very good for this particular sign. Libra, so good for money, but not so good for certain other. But personal life, probably not the time to go and meet the person of your dreams. Libra, Venus and Mercury in the second house, great for financial growth, although they will be tempted to spend a lot. Saturn aspecting that combination will rein them in, but the temptation will be very strong. Let's see now. Mars is in the third house, very good for personal success. Aspecting Rahu in the sixth house. So again, this will bring some increased enemies. Saturn's in the fifth. So again, study is really the best solution to gaining financial growth. Jupiter's in the seventh house. A lot of opportunities for relationship partners and business partnerships this year. So you'll get a lot more, you'll be approached much more by people asking you to travel, asking you to visit them or even get involved with them physically. So that's not only sex, but it's also business partnerships. So you have more people coming your way for that. Moon's in the 11th house, good for gains from career. K2's in the 12th house. If you can use this energy appropriately, it's good for worship. It's good for vows of silence or keeping oaths or fasting. It's not so good for success, and it'll give opportunities for spiritual gifts from different countries. But there will be problems sleeping, and there will be problems with sleep-related disorders. For Scorpio, Mercury and Venus are in the first house. Yay, that's kind of a Dana Yoga for this chart. It'll give an increase in financial growth, and Mars in the second house further enhances that, so increase in financial growth through career. Third house Lord Saturn is in the fourth house, so there's a lot of fulfillment of ambitions, a lot of dynamism connected with the sign. Rahu's in the fifth. A lot of promises being made to you, but you'll have to follow up on these people to make sure they keep their promises to you. So if somebody says, I'll get back to you by a certain day, get back to them before that day and remind them. Rahu's in the fifth house. Rahu's in the, I'm sorry, Jupiter's in the sixth, so some financial gains from that combination. And Moon is in the 10th, so this could indicate change of career for Scorpio Sun or rising. K2's in the 11th again, don't trust friends. Sagittarius, Sun and Mars are in the first house. Very good combination. Fifth Lord and 12th Lord in the first. The fifth Lord is more important, so this gives financial growth to the sign. It also gives a great deal of luck from the government or from authority figures. Saturn is in the third house, aspecting the 12th, so a lot of expenses are expected, short-term expenses are expected. So a lot of outlays of money kind of rapidly. Rahu's in the fourth house, some disruption on the home front. And finally, Moon is over here, aspected by Saturn. So this will give slow but steady gain in income. K2's in the 10th, again, another possibility of change or obstruction in career. And Mercury and Venus are in the 12th. Actually, not a bad combination for saving money. Mercury and Venus, especially retrograde Mercury, as it starts the year, is actually pretty good for saving money. So you'll spend, but you'll save. Capricorn has Saturn in the second house and Rahu in the third, so there'll be a lot of focus on financial growth. Jupiter's in the fourth house. It gives financial gains through hard work and also through learning. Moon is in the eighth house, so there'll be some sense of separation or isolation from a relationship partner. Ketu's in the ninth, unexpected gains, unexpected increases in finances, but they'll be spent. They'll come from friends, but they'll also be spent rather quickly. Okay, with this combination in the 12th house. Let's go to Aquarius. Aquarius has Saturn in the first house, Rahu in the second, Jupiter in the third. So that forms kind of a chain of demand for new activities, new money, dissatisfaction with financial situation, a desire for more money, a desire to teach. Moon is in the seventh house. Maybe even change in relationship patterns or relationship partners will seem moody or difficult to deal with. K2's in the eighth house. A lot of exploration of spiritual pursuits. Mercury and Venus are in the 10th house. Excellent for career growth for this sign. In very short spurts, but it's excellent. So you'll get a lot of new clients, a lot of new students, a lot of new financial opportunities. Sun and Mars gives unexpected money from the government, and that looks good for. So again, financially, apart from relationship life, Aquarius looks good. Finally, Rahu's in Pisces in the first house, surrounded by Saturn and Jupiter. That gives restrictions on money, but desire for more money. That shows up again. Moon is in the sixth house, so there'll be some problems with females. K2's in the seventh house. Relationship life will be a little bit weird or unpredictable. Mercury and Venus are in the ninth house. That's a good combination for financial gains. And Sun and Mars give good growth in career, but Saturn in the 12th is not good for financial growth. Now I'm going to look at the world map really quickly because I spent a lot of time on other charts. Okay, so areas where I always expect, see, oh, I hate it when it does this. Okay. Yes, a little bit. All right, that's better. Okay, so again, Jupiter is near Hawaii, so we're expecting some more volcanic activity. Saturn is on the west coast of the United States. We can expect some more economic downturn in that region of the country. Um, Mars, maybe some earthquake activity in California. What do you think? Um, Mars Moon conjunction, bad weather, bad governmental decisions, um, people being caught in lies in California. Sun is going through Arizona, I'm sorry, through New Mexico and Texas and into down into Mexico. So there'll be increased government interference in that part of the world. And again, not a surprise, South America is going through a really tough time right now. There's a Rahu line, so there's scandals in um, Ohio, Pennsylvania, uh, North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, Florida, Cuba, Panama, and down into the West Coast, down there, Ecuador and Peru. And we have a Jupiter line running through uh, Guyana, Venezuela, a little bit of Brazil, and Bolivia, and down into Argentina. So again, a lot of the efforts that are being made in Argentina are well, seems to be oppressive because there's a sun line going through there, but um, that's just, I'm not going to argue as to whether or not they're necessary. Um, Venus is passing through Brazil, and there's a Saturn line right by Brazil. So Brazil will feel like it's kind of tied down. Again, we have a Mercury line through Iceland. We've got some volcanoes in Iceland, and we have a Mars line running through a Mars line and a Sun line running through France, UK, uh, Ireland, Spain, Portugal, and even into Libya. Uh, I'm sorry, and even into Algeria and Libya. So all those parts of the world, all the way down to uh, down sort of like close to Nigeria down here. Um, there'll be disruptions in Nigeria, Sudan, and uh, Zimbabwe, and down in South Africa. There'll be scandals all the way up through Italy and into Finland. And let's go over to Russia and Ukraine. There's a Jupiter line running through Ukraine. That's not necessarily a good thing because, and there's a Jupiter line running through Turkey and up through here. That's not necessarily a good thing because that means expansion of the war. And there's a Saturn line, so it'll deadlock the war for another few months, unfortunately. Venus near is surrounding Turkey, and we have Jupiter on the other side, so that indicates um, a lack of supply of oil to me, a lack of mineral resources. So we have a Saturn line right next to it. Mercury is passing over um, eastern India up into Bangladesh, and I just want to say Pakistan and Afghanistan still are out of trouble, to be honest. Um, some flooding, some problems with resources, and we have Mercury and Mars taking place. So there's going to be some kind of political scandal in um, India, Bangladesh, China, and also even affecting uh, Thailand and Cambodia. A lot of government restrictions in China, government restrictions in Borneo, and even into Indonesia, some panic about the government happening in those countries, some dissatisfaction, maybe even some minor revolts. And we have a Venus line running through Australia, intersecting Moon, Saturn, uh, Mercury, and Mars. So there'll be some government scandals in those countries. Government scandals, especially regarding communications and media. So a lot of the media activity has around the world has been geared more towards restricting speech, and I think that trend you're going to see continue for the next, at least for the next 4 to 5 months. Okay, so that's it for this week. Sorry, I had to rush through the world map quite so quickly, but I had a lot to say, and hopefully you found it interesting. If you did find it interesting, uh, please like, subscribe, and share. I love you all. I wish you nothing but great happiness for the new year, and I know you're going to succeed. So don't worry about yourselves, but just be mindful. There are obstacles this year, and but you can overcome them, right? Okay. All right. Peace, all love, namaste, and may the blessings of the higher order of the world be with you. Namaste. I love you all again. Thank you for watching. Bye.